Karl Marx, a young philosopher, visited America during the Industrial Revolution. He was appalled by what he saw. Factories were filled with young children, toiling in dangerous conditions. These children worked long hours for little pay. Marx saw firsthand the exploitation of the working class. He was moved by their plight and vowed to fight for their rights. He believed that everyone deserved a fair and just society. The Industrial Revolution brought immense wealth to factory owners. However, it created a vast underclass of impoverished workers. This stark inequality fueled Marx's outrage. He saw capitalism as a system that benefited the few at the expense of the many. This experience shaped his worldview and fueled his desire for radical change. Marx's visit to America had a profound impact on his thinking. He witnessed the brutal reality of industrial capitalism. It was a system where profit was prioritized over human dignity. This experience solidified his belief in the need for a more equitable society. He dedicated his life to exposing the injustices of capitalism. He called for a revolution that would empower the working class. In 1848, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels published the Communist Manifesto. This short but powerful document outlined their vision for a more just and equitable society. At its core was the idea of abolishing private property and establishing a classless society. In this society, the means of production would be owned and controlled by the workers themselves. Marx and Engels argued that capitalism was inherently exploitative. They believed that capitalists, driven by the pursuit of profit, would always seek to maximize their gains by paying workers as little as possible. This created a fundamental conflict between the ruling class and the working class. Marx and Engels believed that this conflict could only be resolved through a socialist revolution. The Communist Manifesto laid out a vision for a society free from exploitation and oppression. It called for the abolition of child labor, free education for all, and a progressive income tax. These ideas were radical at the time, but they resonated with many workers who were suffering under the harsh realities of industrial capitalism. Despite its emphasis on equality and workers' rights, Karl Marx's work has been consistently distorted and demonized, particularly by those in positions of power. Politicians and corporations with vested interests in maintaining the status quo have often presented a skewed view of Marx's theories. They portray him as a radical extremist advocating for violent overthrow of governments, which is a gross misrepresentation of his nuanced arguments. These distortions serve a specific purpose: to discredit any movement that challenges the existing power structures. By painting Marx and his ideas as dangerous and destructive, they create fear and discourage people from questioning the inequalities inherent in capitalist systems. This fear-mongering effectively silences dissent and maintains the dominance of the wealthy elite. The misrepresentation of Marx's work is a deliberate strategy to protect the interests of the powerful. By equating his ideas with totalitarianism and economic collapse, they create a false dichotomy between capitalism and chaos. This effectively shuts down any meaningful discussion about alternative economic systems that could potentially create a fairer and more just society for all. False prophets. Communism in name only. While many countries have claimed to embrace Marx's ideology, the reality is far more complex. Regimes like those in North Korea, Russia, and Cuba, often cited as examples of communist failures, have little in common with the vision outlined in the Communist Manifesto. These states are characterized by authoritarianism, suppression of dissent, and vast inequalities in wealth and power, contradicting the very principles Marx espoused. Rather than empowering the working class, these regimes have created new elites who control the levers of power and exploit the masses for their own gain. The utopian ideals of a classless society where everyone shares in the fruits of their labor have been replaced with oppressive systems that prioritize the state over the individual. These so-called communist states are a perversion of Marx's vision. They have used his name and ideas as a smokescreen for their own authoritarian agendas. They have replaced genuine worker empowerment with state control and equality with enforced conformity. These regimes stand as a stark warning against the dangers of twisting noble ideals to serve oppressive ends. The enduring struggle, reclaiming Marx's vision. Despite the misrepresentations and the failures of self-proclaimed communist states, Karl Marx's core message remains relevant today. His critique of capitalism as an inherently exploitative system resonates deeply in a world grappling with widening inequality, corporate greed, and the erosion of workers' rights. Marx's call for social justice, economic fairness, and a more equitable distribution of wealth continues to inspire movements for change around the world. It serves as a reminder that a system that prioritizes profit over people will inevitably lead to suffering and unrest. The struggle to create a more just and equitable world is ongoing. Marx's work, when understood in its proper context, provides a valuable framework for understanding the systemic issues that continue to plague our societies. His legacy lies not in the failed states that have co-opted his name, but in the ongoing fight for a world where the dignity of every human being is recognized and respected.